Good afternoon, Britain. It is 8 minutes past 1. Now, we were going to take you to Downing Street. Unfortunately, there is a dignitary visiting there. Our reporter is not allowed on the street at this moment in time, but as soon as Catherine Forster is allowed in front of the camera, we'll be right to Downing Street. In the meantime,
3 men have been arrested following the stabbing of a 32-year-old mother at the Notting Hill Carnival, which has left her fighting for her life. Now, this comes as it was revealed a fourth person attending the event has been left in a critical condition after receiving head injuries.
Well, in total, just over 330 arrests were made over the carnival weekend for a range of offences, including violence, sexual assaults and attacks on police officers.
OK, well, let's get some more on this with GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Mark, as ever, lots of people want to celebrate this as a wonderful event in the media, but every year there is a lot of violence that goes along with it and criminality as well. Where are we on this year?
Well, for many people that attend the Notting Hill Carnival, it is a wonderful event and something they look forward to. But there is also no getting away from the fact that there are shocking levels of violence and criminalities at this carnival every single year. This year, 330 arrests, as you said, 10 stabbings or slashings, one instance of corrosive substance being thrown over people, 4 individuals, 4 people now in critical condition, fighting for their lives in hospital, and they include a mother, a 32-year-old woman who was with her young child when she got caught up in the middle of a gang fight, gang warfare, really, 2 feuding sides, and she got stabbed as these 2 gangs tried to reach each other. All the more shocking because this happened on Sunday. And for those that know Carnival, Sunday is billed as Family Day. It's the day when, out of the 2 days, you have lower levels of criminality. You still have criminality, though. And on that day, 104 people were arrested and 3 people in total were stabbed. So there are some serious issues that come up year after year. And in fact, this year was worse than last year, which was a particularly bad year, with 270 arrests and 8 people stabbed. This year, we had 10 people stabbed or slashed, and that acid attack as well. And what we've had in the day now since Carnival ended is a complete absence of any condemnation coming from any politician, be it in the Mayor's office, i.e. the Mayor, Sadiq Khan. In fact, we can show you the tweet that he put out, or the posting that he put out on X over the weekend, in which he praised the Carnival. Hopefully we've got that post, have we?
Sadiq Khan, his tweet. He put out a very appraising message, didn't he? A very positive message about how wonderful the carnival is. There we go, there we go.
And saying, you know, clearly a joyous event that brings communities together. He wants to, of course, accentuate the positive. But he has said nothing about the fact that 50 of he's responsible for policing in the capital, 50 of his police officers were injured in incidents during the 2 days of Carnival. 330 people arrested, 4 people in his capital city fighting for their lives in hospital after those spate of stabbings. No word on that, and no word from any Labour politician now in government, of course. Nothing from the Home Secretary, nothing from the Communities Minister, or indeed the Prime Minister at his news conference again today, where he is telling us how tough he is, how determined he is to end the violence that we saw afflicting so many of our towns and cities during that period of the riots. Quite right, you want to get to grips with that. But you can't have one rule where you come forward and you condemn utterly the violent scenes that are playing out on our streets and then not apply that same measure to a carnival that has just seen a particularly violent weekend, I would say.
I think you put that very well, but why are they turning a blind eye or appearing to turn a blind eye? Why do they find it so difficult to condemn violence when it's at the Notting Hill Carnival?
Well, I think this gets to the heart of why so many people across the country are very frustrated with where we find ourselves at the moment. They see authority figures, politicians, just petrified to say anything that might stoke community tensions, that might have them cast as somehow being racist. And you have people in communities right across the country who see that and believe that that is a two-tier policing, a two-tier approach from the politicians, who are only too willing to condemn and to come down hard on those quite rightly when they break the law, but aren't willing, it seems, to apply that same level of scrutiny to those offending in other, more diverse communities.
Yeah, and even just the police officers being injured.
I find it hard to believe that there would be a single other event that took place in our capital city, in London, where the mayor of that city would not comment on 50 police officers being injured, on 330 arrests. These are gargantuan numbers. I mean, these would be front-page numbers if it were any other event.
When you put it like that, it's utterly shocking, isn't it, that we don't have any kind of response from people in charge, those in charge of the police, those politicians in charge. We have this debate, it rages year after year, about is Notting Hill the proper place to have so many people crammed in to the narrow streets of this West London location. And time after time you get policing leaders and others with perhaps a more responsible head on suggesting that what we should have is a flotilla of marchers and floats heading off to a bigger open area like Hyde Park, where the event, people have room to breathe, they're not crammed in, tensions aren't as high, the police can control it, and the paramedics and ambulance can reach people much more easily than they can in these very difficult to reach areas. We've got a bit of video, hopefully we can show you, which is of an arrest. It's taken from a balcony area looking down, and that gives an indication of just how difficult it is for the police to make these arrests. It's called Notting Hill Arrests 2. There you go. You can see anytime they make arrests, you need dozens of officers around one single person they're arresting so that they can push through the crowd so that they're not attacked by a violent mob themselves. Now, that is just completely out of proportion when you have to have so many police officers just to make one arrest. And often arrests won't be made because it is just too dangerous and problematic to get in and to effect that arrest. And what they do then is try and identify them from CCTV and arrest them at a later date. But it's just not ideal, is it?
Well, that's exactly what a former police officer told us the other day who's worked at the Carnival a number of times. He said, you know, it's just not worth it in some scenarios to go in and try and arrest someone because it could cause, you know, a huge ruckus.
Well, I've spoken to many police officers over the years. I've covered Carnival many times in the past as well, and actually been on ride-alongs with the officers. Pretty much every officer I've ever spoken to tells me how much they detest having to be on duty covering the Carnival. Not that they detest the people or anything like that, but just the job in Carnival. They just say it is horrific. The crushing that goes on, the hostility that there is towards the police from certain sections of that community. It is, you know, something that, of course, they are required to do as part of their job. You know, it's a all hands to the pump type situation, and it's difficult to get out. You might get out of it 1 year, but the next year you'll have to play your part. And
Although you do sometimes see some police officers getting stuck into the extracurricular activities, you know, body popping.
I don't blame them for that. You know, there are police officers who are trying to engage with the community, trying to gain a level of acceptance, but you know, from some within the community up in Notting Hill, there is no level of acceptance. They look upon the police as the enemy, and that is evident by the number of arrests. Offensive weapons, for instance, the vast majority of those arrests were for carrying
that number of
knives.
Arrests, 330, is a high number. But looking at what we saw in your video there, and what we know about how reluctant the police are to sometimes go in to the crowd and make an arrest if they see activity, I put it to you that that number is actually massively underplaying the amount of arrests, the number of arrests that we would have seen had the police been able to go and arrest anyone at will without the difficulties of stopping by and having to assess whether it would actually create more problems if they make that arrest or not.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's the same kind of scenario that did play out in some of the towns and cities where we saw riots, where the crowd is so agitated, it's in an area that is enclosed. If we think of Hare Hills in Leeds, for instance, where police took the decision not to actually move in and make many arrests on the night for fear of sparking even more violence. So the same kind of calculations are being made in the minds of those officers in command who will feel that, you know, the restraint is the better course of action to move forward with, and then try. But you're right, you can never fully account for all those committing crimes when you're trying to look at it after the fact and try and piece together what has happened and identify people really just from CCTV or body-worn camera.
Thank you so much for talking us through all of that. Mark White, our Home and Security Editor. I just can't get my head around why the Home Secretary or Sadiq Khan doesn't just come out and condemn the violence whilst also saying it was a fantastic event for others. I mean, you know, you don't have to, you know, want to ban the event to actually condemn the violence that took place.